8 years ago, 52-year-old construction worker Tony Magro was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes by his local GP. 4 years passed without feeling any better, and he was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes and was given the usual advice on insulin levels and how best to manage his condition. But as time went on, Tony's health was not improving or even stabilising, so he asked his GP several times to be sent for further tests. But his GP pacified his inquiry and recommended that he managed his diabetes better, despite Tony exclaiming that he'd been doing as was advised. Tony's wife Manny was convinced there was something more seriously wrong with her husband, so alongside prompting Tony's doctor to investigate further, she relentlessly used Dr. Google and managed to narrow Tony's symptoms down to a rare adrenal gland cancer that carries a shocking statistic. I spoke with Manny to find out more. So, Manny, what initiated you into using Google to look for the causes behind your husband's illness?
It was desperacy. I'd phoned his GP myself behind his back, even though he'd asked me not to. I was just so worried because this man, who was only 49, was just changing really before my eyes, and he wasn't able to do a day's work really. I rang her and she just pretty much gave me not a telling off as such, but was just very, very reluctant and quite arrogant. Just really to ask if she could carry out more tests because I didn't feel that this was just diabetes. I felt that they just couldn't. I knew people with diabetes and their lives were fine. They could live a normal life. And all she kept doing was piling on pills upon pills upon pills. He was now on 14 a day and injecting twice a day. And she just sort of said, he's my patient and I'll be the judge of that.
Right.
And, it was a few incidences of quite severe nights where he was just exhausted, palpitating, dry retching, sweating beyond belief, and severe headaches. He said it was like having his head in a vice. And this had happened twice, a year apart.
So what did you find in the process of looking on Google?
Well, that was it. When I looked at the symptoms that he was experiencing, and just literally put the symptoms in, I went on to I think I landed on Wikipedia and looked at cancers and I read pretty much every single thing, and I landed on purely on the symptoms, landed on the worst possible cancer you could find, and it was the adrenal cancer, adrenal tumour, and it was a pheochromocytoma. I kept it to myself. I just hoped that I was wrong. I just didn't want to believe it was that, because apparently 90% of adrenal tumours are benign, and 10% that are malignant.
All right. And what was your gut reaction when you came across the illness that you suspected?
My gut reaction was that, based on what I'd experienced with the way he was himself now living, we'd go on holiday twice a year and he would pretty much sleep the whole week. He couldn't bear the heat because he was already sweating in the cool, in the shade. He just couldn't cope with everyday life. It was just, he had no quality of life really. And it was purely based on the symptoms. It was based entirely on just excessive sweating, his headaches, his nausea, his lethargy, everything really, that he was just tired, and I felt that what I'd read was exactly what he had.
Yeah. So do you think in a way that having the liberty to go onto the internet and do your own research, do you think that had an influence on you contacting the doctors for further tests?
Yeah, because I'd read about these symptoms and I read what they were connected to. It was exactly the same.
Tony's type of adrenal cancer. What were the statistics for that?
10 million to 1. 10 million to 1. Initially it said 2 million to 1, but when the consultant came to speak to us after the op, said that his particular type was actually 10 million to 1 at all.
So the whole 8 years he never had diabetes?
No, but the last 4.5 years he could have died at any time.
Quite a story we just heard there by Tony's wife Manny. Researching symptoms online can certainly be a bit of a minefield, but Mani's tenacity highlights the fact that it isn't always in vain.